What is happening, everyone, and welcome back to the Roger Report. The news cycle is absolutely on fire today, and we've got some absolutely massive updates that you absolutely cannot afford to miss. From explosive court revelations to high-stakes industry battles, it's all happening right now, and we're here to break it down for you with all the energy and insight you expect. Get ready, because the game is changing, and you're about to get the inside scoop on the stories that are sending shockwaves through their respective worlds. We're diving deep into the drama, the decisions, and the undeniable impact these events are having. First up, we've got a story that's shaking the foundations of a major sports league, with fiery texts from none other than Michael Jordan and top NASCAR executives being laid bare in a high-profile antitrust battle. You won't believe what's coming out of this courtroom. Then, we're shifting gears to another massive showdown, as a major sporting organization faces the threat of a devastating split, with a charter dispute reaching a critical boiling point. Could this lead to a fracture that reshapes the entire landscape of the sport? We've got the details that matter. And finally, we're going to reveal how texts from Michael Jordan and NASCAR bosses are being aired out in court, with some truly jaw-dropping admissions surfacing. It's all here, it's all happening, and you need to know about it. So make sure you stay locked in, and don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Explosive court revelations emerge in NASCAR battle. The sports world is buzzing as a high-stakes antitrust lawsuit involving Michael Jordan's 23XI racing team and NASCAR has brought previously private communications into the public spotlight. Fiery texts exchanged between Jordan himself and top NASCAR executives have been disclosed in court, painting a vivid picture of the intense conflict surrounding the sport's charter agreement. This legal showdown, centered on whether NASCAR's charter system is a monopolistic practice, has escalated into a federal court hearing in Charlotte, with the potential to fundamentally alter the landscape of stock car racing. The teams argue that the current charter system, which guarantees entry and a share of revenue, is unfairly structured against them, failing to provide adequate representation or financial benefits. They have refused to sign the latest charter deal, leading to their current status as open entries, though NASCAR has made rule adjustments to ensure their participation in remaining races. The disclosures include Jordan's colorful language, where he reportedly referred to Joe Gibbs Racing and other teams with expletives for agreeing to the charter terms, and expressed a desire to fight for the betterment of the sport. Additionally, texts attributed to 23XI Racing's president, Steve Lauletta, contained highly critical remarks about NASCAR CEO Jim France, suggesting his potential demise as a solution to better team deals. Denny Hamlin, co-owner of 23XI and driver for Joe Gibbs Racing, also revealed deep-seated animosity towards the France family, the founders and owners of NASCAR, while cautioning against self-sabotage. NASCAR executives' own messages were also revealed, showing internal concerns about the charter proposals, with one executive describing an early draft as close to a comfortable 1996, expletive the teams, dictatorship, motorsport, redneck, southern, tiny sport. Another executive acknowledged that charters must reflect a middle position or we are dead in the water. The court is currently considering a request for an injunction that would allow the teams to race as chartered entries while the case proceeds to trial in December. The judge is expected to rule on this matter next week, with NASCAR indicating it might sell the charters to other teams if the injunction is denied. The potential ramifications are significant, with court filings suggesting that a team victory could lead to a split similar to the one that historically fractured American open-wheel racing, causing lasting damage. Michael Jordan has stated his commitment to fighting for the sport's improvement, regardless of the personal cost. The outcome of this legal battle is poised to have far-reaching consequences for teams, fans, and the future direction of NASCAR. But the drama doesn't end there. The fallout from this legal battle is already sending shockwaves. Next, we'll delve into how this charter dispute is threatening to tear the sport apart at the seams. NASCAR's future hangs in the balance amidst charter showdown. The world of motorsports is on the edge of its seat as a high-stakes legal confrontation between NASCAR and two of its prominent teams, Michael Jordan's 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports, escalates into a potentially devastating split. This intense battle over the sport's crucial charter agreement has landed in federal court in Charlotte, and the implications could fundamentally reshape stock car racing as we know it. The recent court hearing saw nearly 2 hours of intense back and forth, with both sides presenting their arguments and revealing a trove of text messages that starkly illustrate the fractured relationship between the teams and NASCAR's leadership. Judge Kenneth D. Bell has emphasized the gravity of the situation, warning that the trial's outcome could lead to unforeseen transformations within NASCAR. The public release of private conversations has been particularly revealing. Executives within NASCAR reportedly expressed a belief that they held all the leverage in negotiations, with some messages suggesting teams would be compelled to accept whatever terms were offered. On the team side, sentiments were equally charged, with Denny Hamlin admitting his profound despise for the France family, the long-standing custodians of NASCAR. This deep-seated animosity was underscored by a particularly blunt text from 23XI Racing President Steve Lauletta, which made a callous remark about NASCAR CEO Jim France's potential passing as a solution for securing better team deals. Other communications revealed frustration from Curtis Polk, an investor in 23XI, who characterized NASCAR as boring and found certain races difficult to follow. As the hearing concluded, Michael Jordan addressed reporters, asserting that his fight was not just for his own team, but for the broader interests of all race teams. Judge Bell cautioned both parties that a definitive victory was not guaranteed and that an unfavorable ruling could have detrimental effects on everyone involved. Adding to the gravity of the situation, NASCAR's outside counsel, Chris Yates, suggested that a team victory could precipitate a schism akin to the infamous split between the Indy Racing League and CART in the 1990s, a period that severely hampered American open-wheel racing and left lasting consequences. The decision regarding a preliminary injunction is anticipated next week, but the lawsuit has already cast a substantial pall of uncertainty over the sport's trajectory. At the core of this legal dispute lies NASCAR's contentious charter system, which functions much like a franchise, guaranteeing teams a place in every Cup Series race and a share of the associated revenue. These charters have become extraordinarily valuable, with recent sales reportedly reaching close to $40 million. However, 23XI and Front Row Motorsports contend that the system is inherently biased against them, arguing that the new charter deal fails to empower teams with sufficient influence or provide equitable financial returns. NASCAR, conversely, maintains that the system has been a resounding success, generating billions in value for teams and fostering unprecedented stability. The antitrust lawsuit further alleges that NASCAR operates with monopolistic practices, citing actions taken to prevent teams from forming rival series, including agreements with track owners to prohibit competing events. The teams also claim restrictions on utilizing their next-gen cars outside the Cup Series, thereby limiting their revenue-generating potential. This legal battle is more than just a disagreement. It's a fundamental challenge to the established order. Now, let's dive into the specific text messages that have brought this conflict to light. Text from Michael Jordan and NASCAR brass exposed in antitrust trial. A significant legal battle is unfolding in the sports world, with Michael Jordan's 23XI Racing team and Front Row Motorsports locked in an antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR. The case, which centers on the controversial charter agreement, has reached a critical juncture, with a recent court hearing unearthing a torrent of private text messages from both sides. These communications, revealed through the discovery process, offer an unprecedented glimpse into the heated tensions and deep-seated disagreements that have plagued the relationship between the teams and the racing organization. The lawsuit, filed in October, accuses NASCAR of operating as monopolistic bullies that allegedly hoard revenue and exert undue pressure on teams during negotiations. This legal action was prompted by the team's refusal to sign a new charter agreement offered by NASCAR in September. Charters are vital in NASCAR, guaranteeing teams entry into Cup Series races and access to league revenues, with some teams reportedly feeling they had little leverage during the initial charter signings last fall. Among the most explosive revelations are text messages attributed to Michael Jordan himself. In one exchange with his business manager and 23xi co-owner Curtis Polk, Jordan reportedly used strong expletives to describe Joe Gibbs Racing and other team owners for their acceptance of the charter terms, stating, "Teams are going to regret not joining us." Further complicating matters, texts revealed by the Associated Press indicate that Steve Lauletta, president of 23xi Racing, made a stark comment about NASCAR CEO Jim France, suggesting, "Jim dying is probably the answer to achieving better charter terms for the teams." Denny Hamlin, another key figure involved as co-owner of 23xi and a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing, expressed his strong negative feelings towards the France family, stating, "My despise for the France family runs deep, but please let's not sabotage our own business." Hamlin later alluded to legal advice, posting on social media, "My lawyer said don't tweet, so this is me not doing that." Bubba Wallace, a driver for 23xi, addressed the lawsuit during a recent media appearance, stating the matter was above my pay grade and that his focus was on winning races, referencing his recent victory at Indianapolis. In a separate exchange with Polk, Jordan appeared to discuss the value of charters, humorously noting his gambling habits and stating, "I have lost that in a casino. Let's do it," in reference to a potential transaction, though the specific amount was unclear. The court also heard messages from NASCAR executives. Steve Phelps, NASCAR commissioner, reportedly expressed concerns about the lack of progress in charter talks, noting 0 wins for the teams and stating that teams could either sign or lose their charters. He also acknowledged the precarious situation, writing that charters must reflect a middle position or we are dead in the water. They will sign them, but we are fucked moving forward. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell also voiced disapproval of an early charter proposal, fearing it would reflect poorly on the sport, using the phrase, "Fuck the teams, dictatorship, motorsport, redneck, southern, tiny sport." Scott Prime, NASCAR's executive vice president and chief strategy officer, believed NASCAR held all the leverage and that teams would likely accept any terms presented. Jordan's attorney, Jeffrey Kessler, argued that these internal communications demonstrate NASCAR's alleged monopolistic control over the sport. The judge is expected to rule on an injunction request next week, which would prevent NASCAR from transferring a charter to another party. Jordan has expressed openness to settling the case, but is also prepared for a trial, emphasizing his commitment to improving the sport for all stakeholders. The raw, unfiltered nature of these messages reveals a deep chasm between the teams and NASCAR's leadership. Now, let's look at the broader implications of these revelations and what they mean for the sport's future. Texts from Michael Jordan, NASCAR bosses aired out in court, "I have lost that in a casino." The ongoing legal battle between Michael Jordan's 23xi Racing team and NASCAR has taken center stage, with a recent court hearing offering a rare and candid look into the private communications between key figures on both sides. These messages, unearthed during the discovery phase of the antitrust lawsuit, have been made public, providing a granular view of the intense negotiations and underlying tensions. The core of the dispute revolves around NASCAR's charter system, which functions as a franchise agreement, guaranteeing teams a place in every Cup Series race and a share of the sport's revenue. 13 racing teams entered into new charter agreements last fall, but 23xi Racing and Front Row Motorsports notably refused, citing concerns over leverage and terms. They subsequently sued NASCAR in October, labeling the organization as monopolistic bullies that allegedly hoard revenue and exert undue influence over teams. The court hearing on Thursday focused on an injunction motion seeking to prevent NASCAR from transferring a charter to an unspecified party, with a ruling expected next week. The disclosed texts paint a stark picture. Michael Jordan, a co-owner of 23xi Racing, sent messages to his business manager, Curtis Polk, expressing strong opinions about other teams' decisions regarding the charter agreement. He reportedly used expletives to describe Joe Gibbs Racing and other team owners, stating, "Teams are going to regret not joining us." In a separate exchange, Jordan, seemingly discussing the financial aspects of charters, referenced his own gambling habits, humorously noting, "I have lost that in a casino. Let's do it," although the context and amount of money were not explicitly clear. The messages also reveal internal discussions among NASCAR executives. Steve Lauletta, president of 23XI Racing, reportedly made a harsh comment about NASCAR CEO Jim France, suggesting, "Jim dying is probably the answer to securing better charter terms." Denny Hamlin, also a co-owner of 23XI and a prominent driver, voiced his strong negative sentiments towards the France family, stating, "My despise for the France family runs deep, but please let's not sabotage our own business." Hamlin later posted on social media, acknowledging legal advice against public commentary. Bubba Wallace, a driver for 23XI, downplayed his involvement in the legal proceedings during a recent media appearance, stating the matter was above my pay grade and that his focus remained on racing performance. From NASCAR's side, messages from Commissioner Steve Phelps indicated challenges in negotiations, noting 0 wins for the teams and presenting teams with an ultimatum: pick a date and can either sign or lose their charters. He also acknowledged the need for compromise, writing that charters must reflect a middle position or we are dead in the water. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell expressed dissatisfaction with an early charter proposal, fearing it would negatively portray the sport, using the phrase, "Fuck the teams, dictatorship, motorsport, redneck, southern tiny sport." Scott Prime, NASCAR's executive vice president and chief strategy officer, conveyed confidence in NASCAR's negotiating position, stating, "We have all the leverage and the teams will almost have to sign whatever terms we put in front of them." Jordan's attorney, Jeffrey Kessler, argued that these internal communications serve as evidence of NASCAR's alleged monopolistic practices. The potential consequences of this lawsuit are significant, with legal representatives suggesting that a team victory could lead to a disruptive split within the sport, mirroring past challenges in American open-wheel racing. Jordan has expressed a willingness to settle, but remains prepared for a trial, emphasizing his commitment to improving NASCAR for the benefit of all involved. These candid exchanges reveal a deep divide and a high level of animosity within the sport's leadership. Now, let's look at the potential impact of this legal battle on the future of NASCAR. That's all the time we have for today, but what a show it was. We saw explosive texts from Michael Jordan and NASCAR execs in a massive antitrust battle, a threat of a devastating split looming over NASCAR due to charter disputes, and jaw-dropping revelations from court hearings. Don't miss a moment of the action, hit that like button, subscribe to the Roger Report for all your breaking news and analysis, and ring that notification bell. And tell us in the comments below what you think of these massive stories. You can also follow us on all our social media channels for even more exclusive content. We'll see you next time.